Good morning, Sorsha. Good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday. I'm the Gray Strega, and I'm here to give you your daily collective read for today, Wednesday, April 10th, 2024. What do we have coming through in the cards for today? May I please have the first 5 cards in our 5-card spread? First card we are starting our day off with today. It's the retrograde. It's the retrograde. We're coming off of that eclipse energy. It's going to feel like a little bit of an energetic come down. It's not surprising if you're feeling a lot like, listen, this is what happens. We've got a lot of intensity that builds up. That movement out of it can sometimes feel like that sinking, if you will, right? And what we see right now, this combination of coming out of the eclipse right now and also experiencing the Mercury retrograde, this could be feeling like a lot of the amplification of energetic frustration, if you will, right? One of the important things to identify and recognize around this right now is not letting yourself come into a state or space of feeling energetically overwhelmed. Remember how I said just a few days ago, not to let yourself get triggered, not to let yourself do anything hasty. That was not the time for that type of work. That was not the eclipse time. I kept saying the eclipse time was not the time to be making any rash decisions, making any immediate pushes forward. It was a time to observe how one is feeling. It was a time to be able to plan. It was a time to be able to set the intentions. And now is the time to be able to do a lot of the energetic work. What we're seeing right now, this is going to feel like, I want to describe this. This is like an eclipse hangover, guys. This is feeling a little bit of that energy, that come down that's happening right now, that feels sometimes it can feel like, and it's really important that you, and I even described this, being able to find that energetic balance point right now. It's going to feel like a little bit of that dip. So when we have a lot of those high dips, sometimes you experience those low dips. So being able, just as we said, when you were feeling the energetic intensity, not moving forward and doing anything too rash. Remember what I said about that idea or aspiration, that if you have that moment of insight, ask yourself if there's something that's propelling you to do it in this moment. Is there something that can wait 5 minutes? Is there something that can wait 10 minutes? And we see even now that ability to find that moment of feeling the energetic conviction in relationality to that high and that low point, like that is helping you find that identification of pathwork right now. Masculine and feminine energy in the divine union frequency. One of the things that we've been seeing, remember what we were identifying right now, is the fact of really doing a lot of deep investigation on whatever that eclipse energy brought up to be observed, right? Because that is that energetic moment, if you will, and feeling that amplification point, recognizing and identifying what feels energetically disruptive is where you can kind of see like what that task work is, where to put that concentration, where to put that energetic focus. Now, for masculine and feminine energy in the divine union frequency, we can see that even now, that is that identification point that is happening right now in relation to what you may have been feeling or experiencing during that intensification process that needs some type or level of energetic addressing. And that is, again, that moment of being able to look towards what feels like it is off of alignment, what feels like it isn't in a point of energetic comfort, to be able to recognize and identify where to put that effort and energy going forward, right? This is the energy in the divine union, not moving forward and wearing rose-colored glasses, not going through and just pretending that something isn't energetically there. Why? Because the masculine and feminine energy in the divine union frequency, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, recognizes and identifies that small problems have the ability to become big problems if left unattended. So we see even now that this may be coming through with a lot of that feeling of fastidiousness, not wanting to energetically let something go, but for the sake or for the purpose of recognizing and identifying the difference between ignoring something energetically and looking at something with the desire to energetically fix something. And that is requiring a lot of deep internal investigation right now, not just on where your bliss may lie, but also about any feelings of energetic discontentment. Because that is that moment that is helping to articulate what needs to be modified or adjusted, that's going to lead you to being able to feel the positivity of what you're aspiring and desiring in a manifestation goal in the present moment. Masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union right now. This is that moment that may be feeling like, again, some of that energetic come down that is occurring coming out of this eclipse cycle. It can feel like a little bit of that energetic hangover, like that intensity. And that's why I even told everyone, if there was a moment of making we saw even yesterday, there may have been a moment of energetically pulling back on something, because that was the type of energy that we saw during the eclipse that may have felt like these like grand moments that were happening, like these big pushes that were needed, but then almost kind of bringing in a little bit of that practical element here, right? Allowing that to be a moment of like observing and feeling like what is creating anything that is actually that point of energetic disruption. We're also seeing and recognizing that with a lot of that work of the past coming back to the surface right now, as it always does during these Mercury retrograde cycles, this is that moment of energetically revisiting something, but again, having a breakthrough point, recognizing and identifying how much you have energetically changed, potentially even feeling or experiencing moments right now wherein you're not feeling that an energetic connection to something from the past, utilizing and looking back on something from a place of practicality, looking and understanding that work and being able to use it almost again from something from your energetic toolbox that you're able to apply in the present. This is that moment that is, again, experiencing and allowing yourself to observe anything that rises up in that process. And it's okay, because again, when we move into the divine union frequency, it's not a moment that all energetic grief is pushed out the door, if you will. It's a moment that we recognize that our own relationship to it is one that we're able to embody. It's one that we're able to energetically integrate. So we see even now that what is happening for a lot of the energy in the divine union frequency, that ability to work through, to process whatever feels like it's creating energetic grief, whatever's feeling like is bringing forth those doubts, those fears, that's becoming the energetic connective tissue for a lot of the energy coming into the divine union frequency, because that is that moment of feeling a space or state where you don't have to pretend. And what happens when we don't have to energetically pretend? That's that moment that we really start to feel like we're building a true intimate connection, because that's that moment that we show all aspects of ourselves and we're embraced in those moments. Masculine and feminine energy right now that is in separation. This is that moment or modality that we're seeing that feels very potentially energetically overwhelming. I've been saying that a lot of the energy right now in separation, making sure that you're taking a lot of time and effort and energy to put a lot of care and attention on yourself with a lot of these breakthroughs that are happening in separation right now, is very valuable and key. Specifically because we identify and see right now for a lot of the feminine and masculine energy, feeling like you are caught in a midway point right now, at a time where there's an amplification of intensity, and also feeling a lot of the past pulling back on you. That's a lot of different energy to have to navigate at this time. Feminine energy, potentially feeling the energetic frustration of having moved away from something, right, that wasn't in alignment to you, seeing now potentially new opportunities coming towards you, but also seeing that they're not exactly there yet, having to put in some boundaries into play to utilize the lessons from the past. That's a lot of energetic frustration. Sometimes something has to energetically hurt to heal. So we see even now that this is the feminine energy navigating and feeling that energetic frustration point that potentially happens when we're midway through some kind of energetic healing right now, because that is that moment of recognizing and identifying and potentially seeing some possibility or potentiality here, and the feminine energy feeling the weight or struggle of wanting to lean in, wanting to follow some natural inclination, of rushing in to time like almost like rescue some masculine energy from themselves. But that's the feminine energy saying, I can't necessarily go in and rescue a masculine from themselves if they don't have that pathwork or purpose into play, because that's that moment of just basically freezing the masculine in that modality. And for a lot of the feminine energy, that feels like an energetic struggle point, because that's the feminine energy questioning themselves in the process of that. And I need to stress here, if you're feminine energy in separation and you're questioning yourself, you're already doing the energetic work. Because questioning oneself, looking at something and moving against the way that you may feel energetically inclined, shows the fact that you're utilizing that sense of moving and acting with intention. And intention requires consideration, and consideration is fraught. It is difficult. So that is that moment that we're seeing here, that may be the expression of seeing and recognizing something that feels like it hurts, but sometimes something has to energetically hurt to heal. Masculine energy, if you're in separation, if you're halfway through this energetic process, you may be recognizing or feeling some of that overwhelming weight of recognizing that you're halfway there. If you're leading forth from a place or space of trying to build authentically or openly with the feminine, but you're recognizing and identifying that if you don't feel open and authentic enough to reveal that path or purpose or reveal your dream to the feminine, then you're suddenly like hitting that energetic wall within you, right? That's that feeling of being like, well, I can be open to a point. I can be open, but not that, right? Like that's that moment of encountering that energetic wall within yourself that is the heart of intimacy. So for masculine energy doing this work right now, there's some deep unpacking that may be happening here. There may be a moment of trying to ask oneself, like, where that wall arrived. Why was that moment put there? Was it put there by someone else, or is it something that you erected at some point to energetically protect yourself? Some walls within us are there for a very good energetic reason. That's the difference between a healthy boundary or what we consider like a block, right? What's the difference between that? One feels like it helps us and one energetically hinders us. So for a lot of the masculine energy right now, there's a lot of this energetic unpacking right now that's potentially happening in separation, to identify and ask oneself if that energetic wall within oneself feels like it is in a space or place of facilitating healing. Is it creating something that feels like it's energetically healing you, or is it energetically hurting you? Right? Because that's the ability to identify what needs to be worked on in the self versus what needs to be energetically released. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. Second card in our 5-card spread for today is, it's a it's a blocker. You remember when I just said it's a blocker? We've got the Death card coming up here in its reversal. Masculine energy, this is just repeating what I just said. That moment of identifying, feeling that sense, hitting something within the self and being like, oh, what is this wall within me? What is this doing here? What is this thing that is preventing me from building through that? A lot of this could be a deep investigation right now, masculine, in terms of where your intimacy lies. Why is there that separation point? Why is it so hard to come into that space of energetic intimacy? I told you, a lot of the masculine energy right now is looking right now at authenticity. They're looking right now at intentionality, and they're saying, why when I try to push these together, they start to pull away from each other? Because that's that moment of saying to oneself, I'm trying to make myself energetically whole from within, and moving forward from a state or space of being able to blend the authenticity with the intimacy is something that is so very difficult, and especially for the masculine energy, because that's that moment that, again, that's coming into healing with a lot of the feminine energy within you, right? Like finding that heart of intimacy is either something that I told you is something that you're working on within the self, something that you self-erected within yourself, or it's something that was energetically put there. So even now we see that a lot of the energy of the masculine is doing a lot of this work to try to recognize and identify what this energetic block is from within, to be able to heal it from without. Feminine energy, this is energetically difficult for the feminine, because this is the feminine that wants to step in. I told you that need or desire to want to step in and to help the masculine through this healing process is one where the feminine almost wants to reach their hand out and goes, I can't energetically go in and fix that within the masculine. That is something that needs to be worked on within the masculine. And this is why we see now, even if the feminine energy is experiencing or seeing a masculine that may, again, regardless of whether the feminine energy feels intuitively like they know what the masculine wants, this is a feminine that is needing to see a masculine that has learned the ability to come into that space of energetic intimacy, to be able to build that type of connection with the feminine. Because that's the feminine energy that recognizes and identifies and says, if I have to be a mind reader to lead the masculine forward on the path, then my responsibility and role in the connection ever moving forward will have to be able to energetically read the mind of the masculine, right? This is like setting the energetic standard, right? That's setting the template, if you will. And that's the feminine energy saying, I can't limit, I don't want to inadvertently, accidentally limit or hinder a masculine energy that is in the process of energetically healing by rushing in too quickly and trying to pull them off of them finding their energetic path work, because that doesn't help the masculine figure out what they want. It's something that the masculine may come to someday energetically resent for the sake of feeling the difference between needing, like saying to someone, I energetically need that support, versus feeling that sense of being able to find it within the self. So what we see that for a lot of the feminine energy right now, this is feeling like having to hold oneself back from doing something that you aspire and know that you have that ability to do. So we see even now for the feminine energy going through this right now, this feels energetically painful because that is the energetic resilience moment. Recognizing and feeling like one can do something, but holding oneself back. So we see that these energies right now are doing a lot of work in areas that are not easily navigated within their own energy, but that shows the fact that that is where the healing is coming in, because you're pushing into those areas of energetic discomfort to be able to find the breakthrough from within. Masculine and feminine energy coming into the divine union frequency right now. This is that feeling of energetic frustration, potentially and particularly because we saw that for a lot of the energy entering the divine union frequency, over the last few days, there was a robust amplification on how one was energetically feeling. So that feeling of like, again, that strengthening of the connection, of your energetic connections was such that it may have even led to like a lot of openness in relationality to what one desires. There may have been this moment of really feeling that strength of the bond that you were experiencing with another energy. Even feeling that sense, I even told you guys, not making any rash decisions during that time, but utilizing it more as a place of setting intentions and path work. Because now we see some of that energetic easing that's coming through. And it feels, I want to say, it feels a little energetically sobering, right? I told you, it's an eclipse hangover. So that a moment or modality of feeling that is, again, looking at things from a more practical perspective. But the ability and beauty of, again, this is why inspiration, we should plan in spaces and places of inspiration. We should act when we start to feel that energetic heaviness coming back into the forefront, because that's the moment of allowing that dream moment to guide one forward through the practical hurdles. So we see even now that this is a lot of that energy getting down to business as to like recognizing and identifying like what that work ahead will be. Masculine and feminine energy in the heart of the divine union frequency right now. This is a lot of the same, ironically, this is a lot of the same energetic work that we're seeing for the energy and separation right now. Because what have we identified and recognized is happening for a lot of energy in the heart of the divine union frequency? Identifying and recognizing how far you've energetically come from being in the divine union frequency. Identifying how much you've energetically changed. Potentially even recognizing that some of your manifestation goals may have changed from the time of entering the divine union frequency to where you may find yourself now. That is a sign of beauty. That is a sign of growth. That is a sign of personal evolution. We see even now a lot of the energy in the heart of the divine union frequency is having what we can best describe as like those energetic check-in moments, saying, I know we're moving on the same path, but are we sharing the same experience as we do so? Because that is that moment of making sure that you don't feel like you're pulling someone off of their path, but you're still in energetic alignment as you proceed forward. And that moment of identifying, especially if there was something that felt like there was a disruption point that was experienced during the eclipse cycle, something small that got amplified, potentially even a problem spectrum, or something that felt like it was creating a discomfort moment. That ability to look at that and navigate and to say to oneself, is there something that you can practically change in terms of what that feeling is? Or if that's something that you're coming into personal acceptance of, that is that moment that isn't necessarily something that you can do with counterpart energy. There's always a limitation factor in terms of our own path work, even when we're in the divine union frequency, right? All of the paths are different, even if they're moving in the same energetic direction. So this parsing out process that we're seeing right now, it's creating a lot of that self-work. It's creating a lot of looking at what is creating any of those feelings of energetic disruption, to identify the blocker, to say to oneself, let me put my finger on what that is. Is that something that exists within me? Or is that something practically outside of me that needs to be adjusted or changed? Because that is the difference on how to best move forward in utilizing that insight in a practical and productive way. But it's difficult because it's literally looking at something and identifying the blockage, right? And that's hard work. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now, third card in our 5-card spread for today, we have our Knight of Wands in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy in the divine union frequency. This is what we're seeing. Like, and even here, we're identifying there's only so far we can energetically go in relationality to how we facilitate and move with another, right? There's always that unfathomable territory, even when we are completely in the same energetic alignment, versus what we experience from within versus what someone else can facilitate from without. And what we're effectively seeing right now, there can be a lot of discussions even in the heart of the divine union frequency in relationality to either, again, for the feminine energy, identifying and looking at circumstances and scenarios, potentially even feeling right now that sense of not wanting to effectively put energetic weight on masculine, especially if the masculine is going through the same energetic process right now, having to navigate and go through that to a certain extent. This is a lot of the feminine energy, potentially unpacking either past experiences with masculine. Look at some of these doubts and fears coming to the surface. This is what potentially happens sometimes during these retrograde cycles, right? When we said the past comes back up, either in tangible ways or metaphysical ways, because this is that moment of the feminine energy, identifying what is, again, exists within the self, what needs to be worked on in the self, versus what they can facilitate and work through outside of a connection, right? That moment of looking towards another and saying, this isn't something that you can energetically help me with. This is something that I'm unpacking internally, right? And so for the feminine energy right now, this could be feeling very difficult because this could be feeling like you're going through some kind of energetic process that's very hard to articulate, even to the energy that you're in connection with. For masculine energy, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, this is a moment that you yourself are experiencing or feeling some moments of potential self-doubt. It's some of that energetic equivalent of feeling a little bit of that, like I want to say the eclipse hangover, if you will, coming to the forefront, that again starts to make you energetically question yourself. This is also potentially a lot of the masculine energy, looking at the past, not wanting to overly judge. Like, again, if you're having I'm going to say this is the same energy that I said for all of the energy of masculine. If you're having a moment of energetic breakthrough, you cannot hold yourself, and you're just having an energetic breakthrough. You cannot hold yourself. You cannot hold the past version of self energetically accountable for something that you may not have understood. I know the urge and tendency is there, but that's almost that point that we say, like, that's that point of understanding and recognizing to a certain extent that is not something that we can do. It's easy to look back on the past version of self with the eyes of the present, but that doesn't serve the energetic purpose. But we do see here that a lot of the masculine energy doing a lot of that internal review may be feeling like it's very much holding oneself to a high degree of energetic accountability. But that in itself, if this is masculine going through this towards feminine energy, this is potentially the feminine energy, again, saying, what did we just say that the feminine energy is also learning? Holding oneself accountable, questioning oneself is usually the best sign that someone is on the proper energetic path, because you're not moving from a place of blind righteousness. You're having that moment of constant calibration. Masculine and feminine energy coming into the divine union frequency right now. This is, again, masculine energy, feeling something energetically akin to frustration. This is why we see right now a lot of the masculine energy is wanting to do a lot of work to facilitate energetic changes right now between feminine and masculine, because this is the masculine energy coming into divine union that feels like they've removed all of these energetic blockers, right? This is the masculine energy that feels like they've done that work in coming into a space or place of intimacy with the feminine. And so what happens when the masculine energy builds that intuitive connection, that intimate connection with feminine? This is the masculine energy that feels that connection to feminine, not because things are positive with the feminine, not because the masculine just experiences joy with the feminine, but because the masculine feels that weight of a feminine connection that leaves room for the masculine to not just bring positivity, but also to bring grief. That's also a place of comfort. And for the masculine energy building forth in that way, that is that feeling of finding that expression point of feeling and recognizing that sensation of like truly feeling like one is at home, because that is a place that you know that you can energetically rest your head, and that positivity space is there. But there's also the space for you just to be able to hold any of that sense of energetic frustration. So we see that for a lot of the masculine energy right now, this is almost that amplification point, much like the energy in the heart of the divine union. If this is a masculine energy that is questioning themselves, this isn't a masculine energy like putting up a false front. This is a masculine energy saying this is the only space, like the space with the feminine is the only place I feel like I can energetically truly be myself, because this is the articulation point of a feminine that has that energetic room to hold the masculine, both from the positive and from the place that feels like the masculine would typically hold themselves back from energetically experiencing. That is that moment of feeling the energetic catharsis that intimacy brings. Feminine energy, seeing and recognizing a masculine that's opening up to you about this way, telling you about their doubts, their fears, their uncertainties. This is the feminine energy feeling like, again, the heart of intimacy with a masculine energy, because again, this isn't a masculine that just comes to the feminine seeking joy. This is a masculine energy that is building a connection with the feminine, because this is the feminine also being able to do the same towards a masculine. This is that moment of almost feeling like your grief is a shared grief. You're combining your worlds, and that's that moment that we're seeing energetically that occurs wherein, again, it doesn't feel like there's that separation point between one or another. If something pains one, it pains the other, because that is almost that feeling of feeling the strength of an energetic connection and a bond forming, even in those moments of difficulty, even in those moments of energetic adversity. Masculine and feminine energy that is in separation right now. This is that moment, and this is why we see, just like for a lot of the energy at the heart of the divine union frequency, going through this difficult inner work. The energy in separation and the energy right now in the heart of the divine union frequency are going through very similar path work here, because this is, again, feminine energy feeling that frustration point, seeing the potentiality of a connection right now, but feeling that sense of saying, I cannot lead the masculine forth from this point. I cannot guide the masculine if the masculine isn't showing an ability to open up about what their dreams are. Because that's, again, the feminine either looking towards a masculine and saying, just because I feel something, it doesn't mean it's there. And what I mean by that, I need to explain this. When I say it doesn't mean it's there, it doesn't mean I'm not saying that it doesn't exist. I'm saying that there are a lot of things that are happening in the spiritual and energetic spaces at all times and at all places. The difference between something happening and the energetic spiritual space and something happening in the tangible space is someone making it happen in the tangible space. And this is the feminine energy recognizing and identifying and even potentially feeling an energetic connection with a masculine, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. And this is the feminine energy looking and being very practical about something and saying, you know what? As great as a spiritual or energetic connection is with masculine, if there isn't a way to build that forth in the tangible, it just creates something that feels potentially, here, look at this, as like an energetic, potentially frustrating moment, right? Because that's that moment that, again, feels like that ability of the feminine to feel the energetic connection. That is why this is a feminine energy saying, I need the masculine to show me that they have that ability to take what is in that ephemeral space and bring it into the tangible. Because this is the feminine energy feeling that weight of saying, like, yes, even if that energetic connection is there, without the masculine being able to have the power or the bravery to be able to bring that into space by speaking it forth, by moving with intention towards the feminine. This is the feminine that almost says, like, it'll almost feel like I have the connection I have with masculine is like, you know, a connection that, like, you know, it's like, well, you know, it's something I can't put into words. And it can't be put into words because the masculine has never brought it into words. It requires someone to be able to have the ability, regardless of whether there's an energetic connection, to have the ability to bring it forth into the tangible reality. So we see even now that for a lot of the feminine energy, coming into a point of energetic acceptance around that is a lot of the feminine energy in separation coming into some deep elemental healing. I'll put it this way. This is the type of energy I like to call this dream could have been a phone call, right? It's a type of energy that feels like this dream could have been a phone call, because that's that moment of saying, like, again, having the energetic connection is one thing, seeing the ability to bring it forth with those I am statements, with those abilities to bring something in, to be able to have that energetic confidence. That is that moment that is energetically required. So masculine energy and separation right now, this is you potentially going through what feels like, again, either a breakthrough point or a crisis point, depending on how you're energetically carrying it. Because for masculine energy in this modality right now, recognizing and identifying, looking towards something, feeling that internal block within, seeing the internal block, feeling the direction that you want to go into, feeling the internal block, looking at the internal block, saying, why is that there? Did I put that there? Is it helpful? Is it useful? Why am I feeling, what is, this is either a moment for masculine of overcoming and facing one's own energetic fears of intimacy, or this is a moment of the masculine trying to figure out what that direction is. And we see even now that that's either a moment that feels like the expression point of some kind of energetic confusion, right? The difference, I'll put it like this, it's the difference of looking for somewhere to go versus setting your sights on a direction. One feels like you're wandering, one feels like you're set off on a path and a purpose. So we see even now that for a lot of the masculine energy in this modality, this is feeling like the expression of, again, trying to energetically either find your purpose or have the confidence to move into that purpose, because you're recognizing that moving with purpose is the heart of energetic intimacy. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. Fourth card in our 5-card spread. What happens when masculine energy overcomes your own feelings of self-limitation? When you move through that process of being able to recognize and identify, to face your own energetic fears, to look within at what is effectively hindering and stopping, not projecting outwards, not looking at the circumstances and situations around you and utilizing them as an accountability point to avoid doing some kind of energetic work, but recognizing when you're catching yourself doing that, pulling that back into yourself, saying to yourself, what is energetically stopping me? What is internally energetically stopping me? What is that moment within me? Is it my passion? Am I following my passion too much? And my passion is getting me off of my path and purpose? Is it me questioning myself, questioning my own worth? Where is that energetically coming from? We see that a lot, like this is why the feminine can't come in and pull the masculine out of this moment, because this is masculine trying to find a map. And what are they trying to find the map to? You're trying to find the map to yourself. You're trying to find a map to your highest self. And by embodying and by envisioning that highest version of self, that is the energetic map that guides you forth in finding the direction of where you want to go, right? Who do you want to become? Embody that energy. So we see even now that could feel like a lot of difficult work that's happening from some masculine energy right now, because that is that moment of experiencing and countering those limitation vectors within the self that feel like they're energetically holding you back, right? This is a lot of internal path work for masculine and separation right now. Feminine energy and separation right now, this is the feminine energy potentially looking and recognizing that feminine energy's own ability to see the highest potential in masculine is the act of discernment, to say it's one thing to be able to see the potentiality in someone and something. It's another to be able to see that energy, bringing it forth within their own self. And this is the feminine energy doing that important work of recognizing, not coming into the illusory space of mistaking the potentiality of something for the truth and the presence of something. Because that is the difference energetically and effectively of the feminine saying, I see this within you. Do you have the ability to bring it out within yourself? Because that's the feminine energy almost saying to the masculine in separation, I can only take you so far. If you don't see it in yourself, then you can't live energetically through my eyes, because that's a moment that I'm either not seeing the real present you clearly, or that is a moment that you're never, like I'm hindering you from coming into your highest potential because I'm taking you at a moment that you haven't found your highest potential. So we see even now that for a lot of the feminine energy in this modality right now, this is very difficult because this is the feminine energy feeling the energetic connection, seeing the possibility with a lot of the masculine energy around them right now if in separation, and saying, I need the masculine to see that from within and to move towards me with intentionality and purpose. And the feminine energy saying, when that happens, I can't energetically miss it. It's not something that I'm going to energetically miss. This is the feminine energy, like manifesting, saying I'm not going to energetically miss it because it's not something that can be missed, right? Masculine and feminine energy in the divine union frequency, this is the feminine energy having that. This is the feminine energy feeling like I see that. Like, and what is the feminine energy experiencing right now coming into the divine union frequency? They're feeling the echoes of the moments or spaces or places of the masculine that did not lead forth in that same way. It's a moment of, again, recognizing and identifying. This is how we see a lot of the energy right now. Some of this is the Mercury retrograde with the past coming back, for the feminine. This is that moment that, again, it feels like a grieving process because this is the feminine energy receiving that, finding that in an energetic counterpart here. It doesn't clear the feminine heart space of all the spaces or places where they may have aspired or desired to have that with energy. It's almost that moment that feels like that process of energetic rebirth because you're looking back on past situations and scenarios and you're observing the masculine energy, not from a state or space of blame, but from a point of looking towards that energy and saying they couldn't see that within themselves. Right? This is actually a lot of path work of energetic forgiveness that we're seeing, that a lot of the feminine energy coming into the divine union frequency is experiencing, because that's the difference between someone effectively doing something to you or treating you a certain way versus seeing someone that wasn't necessarily energetically in a space or place that they were ready to really move forward from a state of intentionality, from a state of energetic confidence. So we see even now that for a lot of the energy of the feminine coming into divine union, this could be a lot of energetic unpacking that's happening now. And it may feel like a release process. It may feel like a grieving process because you're moving into divine union and you're relinquishing the connection towards masculine energy that felt like they couldn't energetically meet you where you aspired or desired them to be. Masculine and feminine energy. Masculine energy, if coming into divine union right now, this is a modality that if you're rising into that highest version of self, even at this moment, it's hard because that's that moment that you may be recognizing and feeling the full breadth of how much it energetically took to be able to reach that moment within the self. And again, there's that moment that feels like the amplification of energetic choice. Because if there were moments from the past where you feel like you got close to this, but you were too afraid, or you got close to this, or you may have self-sabotaged, or you got close to this and you let energy around you pull you out of it at the time that things were starting to form. This is that moment of you coming into that sense of power of observation of the self to such an extent that you almost are looking at the past version of self and you're holding energetic grief for what you wish you could have brought forth towards them at a sooner time. I'm going to say it again, masculine. You cannot hold yourself energetically accountable for a lesson that took you that long to aspire or desire to. However long it takes you, if you've learned the lesson, congratulations. That is the gift of that energy, having done that, your own energy, having done that work. When I say inner child healing, we don't mean inner child healing as in the child you were as a child. If you just had a breakthrough, then anything prior to that breakthrough is now you healing that unhealed inner child, because now you're recognizing that that was the unhealed child. The child is the energy that did not know something that you know now. The inner child is the person that did not know what you know now. And if you're having that breakthrough point today, then yesterday you were working through the unhealed inner child, right? That is the child coming into that sense of understanding. Masculine and feminine in the heart of the divine union frequency, this is that work again. That is the same amplification that's happening. The only difference or hurdle is this is potentially seeing how much you have evolved and changed since entering the divine union frequency. And that ability to recognize, that ability to truly see how far you have energetically come, it requires a moment of consideration on what is it energetically took to receive this point. This is a lot of that eclipse hangover energy in combination with this, the Mercury retrograde, right? So a lot of that nostalgia may feel like it's taking over, like a lot of that feeling right now of like, that settling, if you will, that energetic settling of the intensity of something coming down, if you will. But what is that doing? That is building a sense of really focusing on what you want to do, where you want to go. For masculine and feminine, different impacts right now. For the feminine energy, this may be a lot of feelings right now, unpacking anything here. And even now we see that this is the feminine energy not wanting to accidentally take experiences from unhealed masculine energy and put them here in the present, right? This is the feminine energy in the divine union frequency, doing that energetic unpacking via V, feeling like they're healing their own connection to masculine, working in harmony with masculine energy that's doing that same path work, right? Working through any of these difficulties or hurdles. But a lot of that requires, and I see it even now, making sure that the feminine energy is doing that important work right now in identifying what is within that requires that sense of being able to come into an adaptability point, understanding what is within one's own power versus what is outside of oneself. What is something that is achievable to change outside of something versus something that needs to be energetically accepted in the present. And for the feminine energy right now, that is that moment or modality that is requiring a level or degree of energetic resilience, if you will, because this is the feminine energy, not wanting to be in a space or place of wanting to overburden a masculine or try to if you're feeling something and there's not a way to tangibly change it, that's something you have to energetically unpack within the self, right? Because that's that moment between having an energetic low point and processing through it versus having an energetic low point and subjecting everyone around you to it. Okay, I'm going to say that again because it's important right now. The difference between having an energetic low point and processing through it versus having an energetic low point and subjecting everyone to it. Masculine, you're having a bit more of that moment right now as well, but we see that for you to a certain extent, a lot of this has to do more with recognizing and understanding and identifying how much you've energetically changed. Like a lot of the masculine energy right now in the divine union frequency, I'm going to say it again, give yourself a bit of grace if you're coming into some kind of understanding of self right now, because remember that past version of self is who carried you up until having that breakthrough point. It's all a gift, even if that gift can at times feel energetically heavy. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now, fifth card in our 5-card spread for today is, we've got here a lot of plans coming into place right now. A lot of plans. And this is beautiful because this is a lot. This is what we want to see coming out of eclipse cycles. Being able to do this work. Being able to take these experiences. Being able to put them into practical application, as it were. That ability to energetically do so is what we are seeing and recognizing right now is allowing a lot of the energy to ground a lot of that inspiration into the pathwork going forward. For masculine energy, this is a lot of the commitment in the divine union frequency in terms of setting one's own pathwork, getting very intentional in that space, laying the groundwork, building that moment, adjusting accordingly. And so for the masculine energy, I want to say today is a lot of this energy of getting down to business. But what we appreciate about this is the masculine energy getting down to business, but doing a lot of that work, taking the inspiration that may have occurred over the last few days in that eclipse cycle and now putting those seeds in the ground, making those plans, helping that guide the path forward. For the energy that didn't allow themselves to get triggered during the eclipse cycle, this is the benefit. If there were problems or hurdles that were experienced during this time, this is the type of energy that allows for that to feel like it is guiding you forward in a way that feels like you're taking a negative and turning it into a positive. Feminine energy in the divine union frequency, this is also a moment that you are also doing a lot of that work. A lot of that work right now for the feminine is recognizing and identifying the difference between how one is energetically feeling from within versus what can be externally changed from without. And so for the feminine energy in this modality right now, this is that moment that we see again. You're doing a lot of that work. You're laying a lot of that groundwork. You're setting that same path work with masculine energy, because this is that moment of, again, navigating through what doesn't work to be able to either immediately change that, set those plans in that are going to allow for that to be an easement going forward, or doing that work on the self to navigate through those feelings of energetic disruption due to a lot of the overwhelm of this path work going forward. So for the feminine energy, a lot of this may be feeling like navigating through some sense of overwhelm, particularly for the energy either coming into the divine union frequency or in the heart of the divine union frequency, right? Because a lot of this has to do with the difference between what the feminine energy can change within the self versus what the feminine energy is accepting in the world around them. That is coming across throughout all of the energetic, across all of the spectrum right now. Because again, the energy in the divine union frequency, the feminine energy is potentially coming into divine union, feeling the energetic breakthrough, the catharsis of what they're receiving from a masculine that's immediately reminding them, welcome to the retrograde, of what they didn't receive from past experiences with masculine. One immediately creates a recollection of the other, because that is the moment of karmic healing. If you're doing something the same way and it's having a different effect, that's because, and you're not doing anything differently, that's because you recognize that you weren't doing anything wrong. It recognizes that you were not utilizing the right discernment path in terms of who you were working energetically with. Masculine, if this is a moment that you're experiencing an energetic change or breakthrough in the heart of the divine, coming into the divine union frequency, that's because you're energetically becoming the type of person that's building the resiliency in mastering your own desire, not letting your desire get you off course, but instead harnessing that and letting it build that sense of energetic conviction, purpose, intentionality. Why is the energy of the masculine in separation right now? Working on that energetic conviction point. Because this is the masculine energy that is feeling that sense right now. If the masculine energy is halfway through the pathwork, building authentic experiences with feminine, seeing that adjustment point, but also seeing that there's still like that energetic wall between the masculine and the feminine. This is the masculine saying, I need to find my path and purpose before I move towards feminine. If I move towards feminine without intentionality, all I generate from feminine is energetic confusion. I put the seeds of confusion in the ground, I get back confusion. What I give to the feminine, I get back in kind. So I need to be very mindful. Or I have feminine energy that pushes away from me because they can see the fact that I'm holding back on. And that's the feminine not being able to identify if I'm holding back from a state of fear of being able to reveal that point of energetic intimacy, or if that's me intentionally not being open to feminine. They all look the same to the feminine energy. So we see even now that this is a lot of the masculine energy, finding that sense of conviction, finding that sense of energetic confidence, even in separation, to move into the space of being the highest version of self, to say, I want to put things in the ground at the highest version of self. And that requires me to be able to speak toward the feminine and tell them what I desire and dream. How can I have something if I don't reveal it? How can I build an intimate connection with feminine if I don't find the ability to be intimate and reveal my true intimate self to the feminine? So we see even now that this is a lot of heavy work that masculine is doing right now in separation. Feminine energy, this is that moment that feels very hard, like difficult, because this is feminine energy utilizing a profound amount of energetic patience. This is feminine energy potentially even seeing right now a lot of the masculine coming towards them, even potentially. It's not that the fact that the masculine isn't there, it looks like they're moving in the right direction. But this is the feminine energy saying, I can't rush ahead to meet the masculine in this way, because if I do, I'm going to prevent them from coming forward on that journey. That's that moment of the feminine feeling like if I go in to rescue the masculine will always feel disempowered in the fact that I had to energetically rescue them from themselves. So this is again that feeling of feminine looking towards masculine, seeing masculine that's energetically learning, working in that way or moving in that direction, and saying, I'm not going to wait for that energy to come into that, because that energy, that individual could stay like that interminably. I need to continue to be focused on what it is that I'm aspiring for. And that's the feminine saying, I'm aspiring for a masculine that knows energetically what they want and has learned the act of intimacy to be confident enough to be able to tell me how they truly feel, but also what they truly want. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Nine of Swords in combination with our Death card in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now. This is how we heal the energetic connections. It's hard, right? But what is the act of compassion? The act of compassion and the act of love isn't doing what we feel like we energetically desire to do. It's what we look towards someone and say, I'm doing what I feel is energetically best for the sake of another energy. For the feminine energy, I told you, this is the expression point of feeling a little bit of that, tough love coming into fashion, if as it were. Having that moment or having that experience of looking towards something and saying, I want to go in and do something for someone, but then saying, I can't. They need to energetically learn how to do that for themselves. That is a lot of the feminine energy, building the resilience that is necessary to be able to facilitate an energetic connection that allows for the masculine to be able to lead forth towards the feminine. And that is the feminine, again, having to hold themselves back energetically to a certain extent, as difficult as that is, but almost saying to themselves and affirming to themselves in the process, I know I'm doing this. I'm not trying to play energetically hard to get. I'm doing this because I desire and aspire to see the masculine rise into their highest version of self prior to its coming towards me. I want that connection to feel like an intentional choice on the part of a masculine, not just someone fumbling energetically in the dark. Feminine energy, masculine energy, having these moments, having these observational points. If you're going through these moments and you're having these breakthroughs right now, this could be a moment of recognizing and identifying either how you can heal some energetic connections, or understanding if there was a feminine energy that let you go, why that feminine energy let you go. That potentially even that feminine energy moving away from you at a time that it felt like you didn't have that intentionality or that purpose wasn't a feminine energy that was rejecting you. It was almost a feminine energy, like asking you to, like trying to facilitate you coming into a deeper sense of healing. Because that's the feminine energy saying, I can't energetically help you find that path. And you're going to be in a state of continual, perpetual discontentment if you're blaming me for hindering you on your own energetic journey. So what we see right now for a lot of the masculine energy and separation, this is that moment that, again, is the amplification on coming into a lot of breakthroughs that could either be breakthroughs or a feeling of crisis, but also is helping you recognize how to either heal the connections going forward in a better way, or how to correct and heal something that is energetically broken from the past right now. Masculine and feminine coming into the divine union frequency, this is you energetically finding that energetic equivalent. That is having a lot of this deeper healing that is energetically occurring right now while in experiencing and coming into divine union. And when we do that, it feels very difficult because it's that amplification point on everything that wasn't that gives clarity to what is. What is immediately gives clarity to what was not. So we see even now that a lot of that energy is recognizing and identifying the differences. And that moment can feel very energetically overwhelming because that's that point of recognizing and identifying. But what are these energies doing coming into divine union? Are they pretending that those spaces and places didn't happen? No, they're sharing that burden of grief. They're building forth on that. It's just all of it. Even the intimacy of being able to express what did not go well in the past, having those points of energetic accountability further fortifies the energetic connection in the present. Masculine and feminine energy in the heart of the divine union frequency right now. Recognizing and understanding the difference between what can be energetically changed versus what needs to be energetically accepted, and what needs to be changed either within the self or externally, versus what can't be changed. That is that moment that we see right now, is that moment that even for the heart of the energy right now that's doing that work internally, it's feeling like you're in a space or state that's creating a place that is comfortable for you to do so. It's facilitating that moment that is asking you to do that internal investigation, to do that internal work, because that's that moment that is helping to energetically identify what feels like, again, what is effectively stopping you from being able to feel what you're hoping to manifest in the present Is that something that is within, and that's something from without? Because that's, again, that moment that we're seeing that a lot of the energy is trying to remind themselves with coming into divine union, which is like, if you're not in that state of energetic contentment now, nothing that you lead forward to is going to create that. You have to assume you're still going to be in the same energy as you find yourself in presently, because that's the difference in terms of identifying the work that one needs to do on oneself versus understanding and identifying that moment of not just feeling like that ambition point of moving to an achievement and assuming that you'll feel better when you get there. Continuing to get clarification point between our Death card in its reversal and our Knight of Wands in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Seven of Wands in its reversal. Hindsight's 2020, but that's why hindsight is also a little broken. I just need to say this, and especially with these Mercury retrograde periods that are coming up right now, I need to stress to you, hindsight is 2020, but that's also why hindsight is broken. Hindsight is informative, but it's really important that we don't move hindsight into a space of feeling energetically guilty for something that we could not see at the time that it occurred. Right? Having that sense of being able to forgive the self and understand that as long as you're moving with intentionality in the present at all times, there's always going to be insight and understanding that comes to you around a past experience. But that doesn't mean, and this is why we see even now, a lot of this energy is unpacking this in the heart of the divine union frequency. That doesn't mean, as long as you were living intentionally in the past, it doesn't mean you did something energetically wrong if you see something now that you couldn't see. That's that moment that feels like you're doing the right thing because you're still changing. You're still growing. Like that is the sign of wisdom coming into play around circumstances and situations, and making sure to moderate between those points right now. Not getting caught in looking back in the past with a sense of energetic clarity, but coming into a point of energetic acceptance and utilizing that as the pathwork going forward. We see that for a lot of the energy right now, it feels energetically heavy. But that is the moment that we see, and again, for the energy at the heart of the divine union frequency, that is the moment that amplifies an energetic breakthrough, because that's the moment that says not getting caught in feeling overwhelming grief about the past, but taking that into a point of energetic acceptance and moving forward from that. That is the ability to take something difficult and move it into something that is positive and productive. Masculine and feminine energy across all the frequencies is going through that right now. Like that is just the only difficulty or hurdle I will stress is that for a lot of the masculine energy, making sure that you're not coming into a state or space of blaming the past self right now if you're having these breakthroughs is really important. Because that is that moment of, again, recognizing that past version of self is what brought you toward, it's like that is the horse that you rode in on that got you to where you are today. So be a little energetically kind to it. Be a little kind to that past version of self, because that, if that, that is that moment of showing the amplification of how hard you've been working. Masculine and feminine energy in separation. And for feminine, this is that observational point of coming into divine union that feels like that sense of holding grief for any of the energy that you may have aspired and desired to have come into that way with you in the past. Now understanding why that they couldn't. And that's almost that moment that feels like the amplification of energetic disappointment of someone who couldn't rise to the challenge of becoming their highest version of self with you. Masculine and feminine energy in separation right now. Again, that's a lot of this work of the masculine. I'm going to say it again. Don't get caught looking at the past right now, masculine. Look at the past and utilize that to propel you forward at this time, because becoming too overwhelmed on the past will hold you back in that space, right? Being able to take that and to utilize that and to let that energetically propel you forward right now. Like that ability to do so, we even see here. A lot of this is the masculine energy feeling that recognition point that nothing is ever energetically lost, so long as we have the confidence to be able to move forward with intentionality and purpose. So we see even now that this is like a lot of the masculine energy at this time, feeling that sense, encountering their own doubts and fears, and then again, energetically confronting the self to rise to the challenge of becoming the highest version of self. That's the gift of looking back on the self of the past and saying, I wish I could do better. Well, guess what? If you're looking at the past version of self and saying, I wish I could do better, I've got some wonderful news for you. I've got some amazing news for you. Today is a new day, and we have that ability to do that every single day. So holding that space, maintaining that sense, letting that empower that conviction point, not letting it be that moment of letting yourself feel overwhelmed in what you could have done better, remembering that you can, like right now. Like that is what's going to help a lot of this energy move through some of this energetic, like overwhelm. Feminine energy. This is the feminine energy saying every day is a new day. Every day, this is the feminine energy saying, universe, surprise me. This is the feminine energy saying, universe, surprise me. Because this is the feminine energy. If this is the feminine energy, seeing and recognizing masculine that is either not there, like hasn't fully reached to their highest version of self to be able to come towards the feminine with intentionality and clarity of purpose. This is the feminine energy saying anything is possible, but I've got to be practical. Okay, this is literally the feminine energy saying in separation, everything is possible, but I got to be practical. Going to keep the hope alive, but I'm also not going to live in a world of fantasy and illusion, right? That is the walk that the feminine has to walk. That's the line the feminine has to walk. Anything is possible, but I'm not going to make something there that's not. I'm going to leave the possibility open that anything could happen at any moment, but at the same time, I'm not going to dwell in a place of living in a world of illusion where something is happening that it's not. Okay? Continuing to get clarification. And that is how the feminine is healing something from the energetic past here. Continuing to get clarification. Just because I feel it, it's like just because I feel it, it's not that it doesn't mean it's there, but does it matter if I feel it and it isn't there, right? It's like just because you feel it, it doesn't matter. It's probably there, but it doesn't energetically matter if you're feeling it and it's not there. You're just kind of getting a little like bell for it. It needs to show itself. It needs to be here. It needs to be able to bring itself forth. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Knight of Wands in its reversal in combination with our Emperor, right? One card to clarify. Clarification coming through right now with that Knight of Swords in its reversal, because this is the feminine energy. Identifying and recognizing, and I need to stress this right now. This is some heavy work for the feminine. This is the feminine energy saying, I don't want the masculine to come towards me at a point that they're feeling uncertain. Because that's the feminine energy saying, if they come towards me at a place where they're uncertain, then that uncertainty is what is true. That I will always look towards that energy and recognize that that uncertainty is the space and place that I found the energy. And that will either create a moment of conflict from within, and me also always questioning if that masculine moved or desired to be with me, or if it was energetically convenient, or feeling that sense of a masculine who feels like I intervened in their own opportunity of finding themselves. And this is the feminine energy saying, I just don't, look at this, look at all this masculine energy around the feminine right now. Feminine saying, it doesn't matter if I have empathy for the energy in this modality. It doesn't matter if I can see the aspiration of what I hope someone to become. They need to find it in themselves. And if I facilitate a connection with an energy that hasn't found themselves in that moment, that's the feminine energy saying, I'm just encouraging them to stay energetically in that space. I need to see a masculine that looks towards the feminine if they're feeling uncertainty and says, you make me strive to be better. You make me strive to be my highest version of self. And that's not the feminine energy forcing. That's not the feminine energy coming into connection with masculine and saying, I want you to become this. That's the masculine energy saying, I want to be with that person. And I know that if I want to be with that person, I need to become my highest version of self, because I know that that energy will not stand for me being anything less than my best version of self. That doesn't mean that I can't be my most authentic version of self, but I need to move towards that feminine energy with the intentionality, with the empowerment, because that's the energy of me overcoming my own fears, rising up to my own sense of self, to be able to meet my counterpart energy, versus looking towards a feminine energy to take care of me or to fix me or to help me at a moment that I need help. Because that's that moment that if I come towards the feminine and I need help, if I rise to my highest version of self, That's that moment that now our alignment's off, because that's me utilizing the feminine as a caretaker, and now I've effectively become something else. So we see even now for a lot of the masculine energy, recognizing and identifying this is energetically unpacking how vital and important it is to be able to be working on that process of becoming your highest version of self through your own fears, mastering your fears, mastering your own desire, channeling those into becoming what you aspire and desire to be, and not letting those unhealed parts of yourself get you off your own course. Feminine energy, this is that moment that feels very difficult, because that's that moment of seeing and experiencing masculine coming towards you that are almost there, that's doing that work and saying, I cannot step in and create that clarity point for you. Because if you're energetically confused and we move together, we move into partnership together, I'm just going to be in partnership with someone who's energetically confused. The clarity doesn't come from the partnership. The clarity must exist before the partnership occurs. So we see even now that that's a feminine energy, utilizing a pathwork of discernment and patience, and almost saying to the masculine, tell me what it is that you want. Even if you're not there right now, tell me what it is that you aspire and desire for. Because you're showing me that you think, you operate in that mindset. You think with that type. That's the feminine saying, I don't need you to become what I want you to become. I need to see that you think like this. I need to see that you embody these qualities of self-review, of overcoming, of recognizing that you are not. Even feminine saying, a masculine energy that says, I am not perfect. I have doubts, I have fears. The feminine's going, you're perfect. Your ability to see yourself in that way, your ability to assess those things, even if you consider them failure points, that's the feminine saying those are milestones. Those are milestones, because you don't project that out around you. You look inwards and you say, what do I need to do better? That's the feminine energy saying that right there, that's divine masculine energy. That's a masculine energy that's controlling their own forces and recognizing and always looking and saying, if something is not working well around the masculine doesn't say, doesn't throw it across the room. The masculine goes, what do I need to do? What do I need to do within myself to be able to make this work better? Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. And for the energy in the divine union frequency, this is the masculine energy doing that work, potentially even going through that process. And this is the feminine energy reinforcing to the masculine and saying that to the masculine. If this is the masculine, it says, I doubt myself all the time. The feminine going, I think you're perfect. If this is the masculine energy saying, I fear all the time, I'm uncertain all the time. This is the feminine energy saying, you utilize good judgment. This is the feminine energy saying, I feel safe with you because I know that the person that you protect me from is your lowest version of self. That you're constantly on guard, that you're constantly doing that work to make sure that you're protecting your own energy. And that's why the feminine energy feels protected and kind. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between the Emperor in combination with the Seven of Pentacles. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with, it's hard. It's energetically difficult. I know it doesn't feel like a positive, right? It's these moments that feel very grounding because they're the moments that fortify us and points where we start to feel that uncertainty. For the energy right now in the divine union frequency, this is that moment or modality of recognizing what feels like in the present it isn't energetically working. But look what this energy is doing right now in the divine union frequency. Just because there are frustrations now doesn't mean that things aren't moving in the right direction. This is that moment of being able to overcome obstacles, feeling that express moment, having that ability to identify and recognize what isn't working gives us the ability to utilize that to be able to set the course on what we feel is going to move better in the right direction. And that we're even seeing here is something that for the energy in the divine union, the advantage point is almost like that feeling of energetic time, right? Because just as these energies in the divine union frequency recognize and identify that there's been a lot of changes that may have occurred from the time that you entered the divine union to where you find yourself now. This is almost that observational point in recognizing and identifying that there's still a lot way more to go. Like there is never that moment that feels like even when you hit a milestone, it can sometimes, this could be a lot of energy right now that has hit a milestone and feels a little bit of that come down from it. Because that's that moment that feels like, again, the reminder that the amplification point can never be, oh, I can't wait for the feeling of achievement that happens when I reach something. Because that's that moment that feels like it's energetically short-lived. It's all the space in between. Like that's where the living is. Right? Everything between the milestones is where the actual living is. So that's why you need to make sure that you're feeling in an energetically good place throughout that, which is the difference between feeling like you're holding on, waiting for something, versus feeling that sense of positivity and joy as you work for something. A lot of the energy in the divine union frequency is working through that right now. Masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union, this is that moment of wanting to overcome or move away any obstacles. And it's going to be a little bit easier for the energy right now that's coming into divine union because you're just getting started on this path. You've got a lot of those hurdles and milestones to go. You're making those plans right now because you're feeling the frustration in the present. But on the bright side, you're like, we've got a lot of those milestones coming up that are actually tangibly going to change things to make something energetically easier. Masculine and feminine energy in separation right now, this is that moment that feels very difficult. You can see why this is so difficult for the feminine energy. Look at the feminine energy. Look at all this masculine energy that's around the feminine. It's close. It's in progress. This is the feminine energy reminding themselves, if they're in separation right now, if they're moving into space or place where they're seeing a lot of energy that's moving in the right direction, but it's not there yet. This is the feminine energy reminding themselves, saying, these are signs that I'm moving in the right direction. This is signs that something is energetically shifting here. Because even if it's not here, doesn't mean that it's not coming, because I'm seeing the fact that the energy around me seems like it's moving in that direction. It's moving in the right direction. Masculine energy, this is going to feel like a lot more of that energetic unpacking, if you will, because this is that moment of recognizing where you need to put your concentration in terms of what you're doing. This could be a lot of changes right now that the masculine is potentially making in your own day-to-day life and your own path work. Potentially even making some of those plans right now, recognizing and identifying through this eclipse cycle what that highest version of self is. And if you're feeling those frustrational points, not letting yourself get overwhelmed in the frustration, letting that inspire you to energetically change. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Six of Cups in combination with our Seven of Swords in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. We've got here our Sun card in its reversal. And that's the only thing about this right now. Listen, I'm telling you, a lot of this heaviness that you may be feeling right now, this is that moment that we're seeing that is like, I want to describe it as like it's the eclipse hangover moment. It's that moment that feels like, whoa, like, it's like that slowdown that happens. And we've also got the Mercury retrograde on top of it. So the past is coming back up at the same time. So it could feel like, I just want to keep saying, it's going to feel like a little bit like a hangover energy. It's going to feel like a little like today, right? But that ability to recognize that is, again, the difference or the equivalent of being able to utilize it in a practical fashion. Masculine and feminine energy in the divine union frequency. The ability to look at what isn't energetically working and not repeat past lessons is what is amplifying the energy of connection point right now. And this is that moment that we see that there's so much energetic discernment in remembering that, like, again, I just keep getting the same message here for the energy in the divine union frequency. Life is what happens in the space between manifestations. So if you're not moving through those manifestations from a state of energetic joy, that requires a little bit of investigation. Because that's that moment of recognizing the difference between, again, moving towards something and feeling like the sense of inherent joy as you do so, versus feeling like you're delaying some kind of energetic gratification for some kind of milestone that might not necessarily energetically shift your own energy. Masculine and feminine coming into divine union frequency, you're energetically feeling that right now. You found that moment. You're making a lot of accommodations to change things, to facilitate feeling that more, building that connection more in the tangible space that is happening within or around you in that emotional, energetic space that is, again, you can't miss it because it's there. And that's that moment right now that, again, that's also the amplification of potentially frustrations and fears, because even at this moment, we see that some of that heaviness feels like it's adding like that anchor to the energy in terms of saying, like, potentially speaking towards those anxieties, those uncertainties. But that's not pushing this energy further. It's bringing it closer together, because these are the energies that are sharing those energetic burdens. They're experiencing them together. Masculine and feminine energy in separation, this is some of the hardest energy, much like the energy in the heart of the divine union frequency right now, because this is that moment that feels like that energetic midpoint. For feminine, working through not wanting to repeat a past lesson is almost holding you back energetically. It's hard right now because that's the feminine energy, holding off, even now, wanting to build a positive energetic connection with the masculine, but wanting to like do so with almost like a loose grip, having that moment of saying, I don't want to force something. I need to allow it to energetically come to me. And we see even now that that's not the feminine energy saying, I'm just going to wait for some energy to energetically come to me. This is the feminine energy saying, like, I just need to kind of continue forward in this way and in this direction, recognizing and identifying that when an energy is ready to move forward with me in that way, they're going to make it clear, right? That's the feminine energy identifying and articulating that. Masculine energy in separation right now. This is that moment that feels like a lot of that energetic pathwork right now, because this could be a moment that you're recognizing and identifying a way to be able to heal an energetic cycle. This is either something that you now know you're either leading forward with, you're having that energetic conviction of being able to take that valuable lesson and bring it forth into the future. Or this is a moment of energetically looking and asking oneself if this is something that you want to correct for in the past. This is going to change on a case-by-case basis here. But we see, if anything, the one thing that we appreciate for a lot of the masculine energy and separation experiencing this is the affirmation of learning the lesson of saying, I better pick a direction and stick to it. I can't do both at once. When I try to do both at once, I end up nowhere. When I try to hold on to everything, when I try to leave all the possibilities open in terms of trying to heal energetic connections, I don't leave myself open to all of the possibilities. All I do is show the energetic connections around me that I'm trying to like hedge my bets in terms of building forth in energetic connections. And that's a masculine saying, I need to be intentional on who I energetically build with. I can't try to say I'm going to do like a road opener and just keep everything open and build all of these connections. I need to prioritize an energetic connection. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Seven of Swords in its reversal in combination with our Knight of Swords in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? We've got here the Queen of Cups in its reversal. So you can see this is very difficult for the feminine energy to navigate right now because it feels very energetically overwhelming. The feminine energy, this is a moment, especially with this heaviness of the eclipse hangover coming through, Mercury retrograde, bringing stuff up from the past, either metaphysically right now or tangibly. There's a lot of the feminine energy. It may be the feeling of feminine feeling a lot of this energy of the masculine, but the thing has to do, it has less to do with whether the feminine energy is feeling that sense of a connection point to a masculine. This could even be a feminine energy feeling the energetic fear of a masculine. Being like, I know that energy is too afraid to come forward. I feel the energetic connection. I know that they're energetically too afraid to come forward. But this is the feminine energy saying, I can't be the one to facilitate that. If that energy is afraid and they can't conquer their own fear, the feminine energy is like, I'm just going to suffer for it. Because I'll just have to be subjected to an energy that's moving out of fear instead of out of intentionality. This is why we see that for a lot of the feminine energy, what's so hard about this is, again, this is almost, again, a feeling of energetic patience, if you will, because to some extent, this is the feminine energy having a profound amount of empathy for masculine energy that they may recognize and observe and say, I know that energy, I see that highest version of self within them. I can see how they self-sabotage. I can see how they're energetically holding themselves back. But that's a feminine energy saying, it's not my responsibility. It's not my responsibility to look towards a masculine and say, hey, get your head on straight. I know you could be doing better. I know you could be showing up better for us. We could be amazing if you'd lead forth to me from a state of honesty and open integrity and openness. This is the feminine energy saying, if it's not there, this is the feminine coming into understanding that a lot of energy does not, it's a fact of life. It's energetically painful. A lot of energy does not have, I want to say, either the intention or the wherewithal to be able to rise to their highest version of self, their own potential. Some energy moves forward in a fear mindset. And that's why we see even now the feminine energy almost feeling the encapsulation of grief, potentially even feeling an energetic connection to masculine energy that they see as moving in that way, but almost feeling that overwhelm of the emotionality that one may feel for an energy moving in such a way, but also feeling the frustration in recognizing and identifying that you can't necessarily change an energy from a place of empathy. Empathy can't change energy. Energy can change energy. Someone needs to have the desire. You can have all the compassion in the world, but if you put compassion on a place where someone is moving through fear, that doesn't necessarily remove the fear. It just holds them in that way because they never conquer that fear. So we see even now that for a lot of the feminine energy moving through this right now, it feels very energetically overwhelming, but the feminine energy is reaffirming to themselves and saying, I'm not going to repeat that energetic lesson. Right? Masculine energy. If you're going through a moment right now and you're feeling a disconnection point from a feminine, or you're potentially seeing the fact that there was some feminine energy from the past that was very emotionally overwhelmed around you, this observational point of looking and identifying and saying to oneself, well, were they emotionally overwhelmed because I was too afraid to tell them how I feel? Were they emotionally overwhelmed because I wasn't moving forward towards them with conviction? This is a lot of the masculine energy, identifying and understanding, starting to unpack if there was an emotional connection where the feminine was like either pulling away emotionally or emotionally projecting onto the masculine. This is the masculine kind of looking towards themselves first. And this is what's good masculine if you're doing this and saying, what was I doing that created that energetic imbalance in the feminine? What was my role? What was I not? And this is the important thing. And this is the important thing. This is the important thing. This is not okay, I'm sorry. I said this wrong. This is not masculine energy in this modality saying, what was I doing? This is the masculine energy in this modality. You're potentially looking back and going, what was I not? What was I not doing? What was I not providing? What was I not giving? Because that is the amplification of the fear. What is withheld? Continuing to get clarification on these points right now, masculine and feminine energy and the divine union frequency, or coming into the divine union frequency. This is the feeling like when I told you, closure comes from steps forward. We don't get closure from the past. We get closure in the future. And for a lot of the energy coming into divine union right now, it can feel energetically overwhelming because you're making a lot of these changes. And even now it feels like your connection to the past is shifting as you do so. But you're building that energetic connection with each other in the process. And that's that moment that, again, like feeling that energetic overwhelm, feeling that fear. It's not the fear that's directed towards each other. It's the fear looking back on the past and not wanting to energetically repeat those lessons that is creating a moment that feels like it's the tie that binds. Masculine and feminine energy in the heart of the divine union frequency right now. This is that moment of energetic accountability, looking towards something, asking oneself if what you're energetically feeling is something that can be changed. Is there something that can have a change facilitated on it? Or if it's something that needs to be internally navigated. And these energies are literally looking towards past experience to help set that template in terms of saying to oneself, have I always felt like this? Have I always felt like this? Which would indicate something that needs to be worked on internally. Or is this something that I'm feeling in the immediate moment? Is this something that's new? Because that's the difference between something that needs to be changed in the external, something that's happening externally that's creating that shift, or something that you're identifying and recognizing as something that you've been carrying with you for quite some time that requires that internal navigation, that internal work. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Knight of Swords in its reversal in combination with our Six of Wands in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Three of Cups. masculine and feminine energy in separation right now, you can see how energetically overwhelming this is. Because again, the energy is in separation. The feminine energy wants a victory here. The feminine energy, what is holding themselves back, if you will. Like this is the feminine energy that almost like feels like they have to like restrain themselves from to a certain extent. Because this is the feminine energy that like feels the added additional anxiety of not wanting to energetically lose a masculine, or feeling that anxiety of fear of saying, well, if I don't reach out for them, there's going to be another feminine that may go ahead and go do so. But the thing that the feminine's realizing right now is like, if feminine's realizing that, it's like, yeah, but that's not a masculine that's going towards a feminine in that way in a different modality. That's a masculine energy. That's a feminine energy being like that. That's the bag. Like that's the energy. Like that's someone else having to navigate that. That's that moment that starts to feel like some kind, and again, this is that energetic compassion coming into play, which is like the moment of either looking towards something and saying, you know, if this energy wants to be in a modality where they're moving to, this is the feminine energy saying, if masculine energy is moving towards me like this, they're probably moving towards everyone like this. And if I'm worried, this is literally the feminine energy saying, if I'm worried that me lowering my standards, me not lowering my standards means I might have to energetically miss an opportunity with the masculine. That's the feminine energy saying, what am I energetically losing? Right? What am I energetically losing? Because that becomes a game of diminishing returns. It's like a race to the bottom. Like who can have the lowest standards to facilitate a connection with an unhealed masculine energy. Do you see how that's almost a moment that feels like, it's like literally, that's a feminine energy. If the feminine energy sees masculine energy moving towards them and they're not rising to the challenge, and the feminine says, maybe if I lower my standards, I'll make it easier for the masculine to come towards me. This is like a clearance sale on standards. Because all you're saying is like, okay, great, there's always going to be someone who was willing to lower themselves lower to be able to facilitate a connection with an unhealed masculine. It's a losing game. To be able to rise higher, like you have to make that energetic choice to rise higher. Because if that bar is too high, then the boundaries have done their work. Because it says energetically to a masculine, I would love a connection with you, but this is what you need to achieve in order to reach me. This is what I tolerate. This is what I stand for. And that's that moment that, again, this feminine being like, if that's a masculine that feels like the bar's too high, that's a masculine that's literally saying to the feminine, I only want connections with feminine energy that does not value themselves energetically. And that moment, recognizing that that's all that means energetically, even if the masculine is unconsciously, even if the masculine isn't consciously realizing that. That's why it hurts so much for a feminine energy seeing that, because that's a feminine energy being like, the energy of the masculine that's not healed is not picking the best energetic connection for them. They're picking the one that is most easily accessible. So that is why we see even now, like that feels like that energetic feeling of profound grief of experiencing that, but saying like, I'm not going to become a part of that. I'm not going to become party to that. Because that is, again, that moment of saying like, if it requires you to say, I'll let you move towards me if there's no energetic choice. And that's the feminine saying like that's that moment of the feminine saying there needs to be a moment of appreciation in terms of articulating what it is that you desire. Because even this is even a feminine energy saying the pathway to having everything is the making the choice of choosing something, right? The pathway to having everything is the pathway to choosing something. But we see even now that for a lot of the feminine energy, looking towards masculine in that way, and being like, if you feel like that is too high of a boundary mark, that is the feminine in separation saying, well, then that you're choosing to maintain a lot of energetically shallow connections. For masculine energy in separation right now, this modality point, this observation, if you will, recognizing and identifying what it feels like, what it is that you truly aspire and desire for. If you're having this moment of potentially recognizing, moving away from the feminine energy that was trying to build intentional, intimate connections with you, there could be this moment that, like, again, you may be looking at the past version of self and feeling like this is that moment of potentially looking at something and feeling like you may have missed an opportunity. Because that's that moment of potentially feeling like, again, keeping your options open energetically leads to not necessarily having any choice. Like, there's a difference there. And for a lot of the masculine energy, this could be that moment of saying, like, even when you choose not to make a choice, you've made a choice. And that choice is what, like, the ability to say, I don't want to have to make a choice, like, may now feel like, in a way, you haven't been energetically chosen, because you're saying over and over again, I don't want to choose anyone, and thereby no one is energetically choosing me. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between the Sun card in its reversal and our Queen of Cups in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with Five of Pentacles in its upright. Oh, I'm sorry, I did forget. For masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union right now, this is the energy. This is the bittersweet energy of having made a choice and feeling the amplification of that choice, but also recognizing to a certain extent that that is that pathwork of clarity being understood to a certain extent. Because again, for masculine, that was that moment of potentially realizing and recognizing and being like, I thought I was making the right choice in the past. Now I'm identifying and seeing what I was doing energetically wrong. And for feminine, that is the same. For masculine and feminine energy in the divine union frequency, right now, what we're effectively seeing energetically is, for a lot of the energy in the heart of the divine union frequency right now, this moment of energetic accountability, this moment of observing, this moment of looking towards something and being able to assess how far you've energetically come. I need to stress this. This is all about the manifestation goals right now, because this is that moment that is just amplifying again. If you're not happy now, nothing that you achieve going forward is going to change your energy, right? It's just going to be more of the same, just with like a different accomplishment under your belt. So what we're seeing to a certain extent is, for a lot of the energy in the divine union frequency, undergoing and experiencing that moment of energetic discernment, the same pathwork that we see for the energy not in connection, to try to identify how to create that, embody that feeling in the present. Continuing to get clarification between our Queen of Cups in its reversal and our Sun card in its reversal, we've got here our Five of Cups in its reversal. So being able to navigate this, and this is for the feminine energy in the divine union frequency, this is a lot of energetic, emotional overwhelm, if you will. Because for the feminine energy in the divine union frequency, this is looking towards the past with grief, coming into energetic acceptance. And for a lot of the feminine energy, this is observing, as I said, what you've been carrying with you. If this is a lingering feeling of dissatisfaction, feminine, that followed you into the divine union frequency, there's that moment of basically taking some kind of energetically accountability for that, because that is the difference between something that needs to be worked on internally versus potentially feeling something that may be like energetically spoiling something that is a positive in the moment, right? That is that point of having to articulate and identify the difference between what can be changed versus what can be navigated internally. Masculine, also energetically feeling like this to a certain extent. But again, that point or power of observation coming into play, specifically maybe even helping some feminine energy if they're going through this moment right now. If there's a feminine energy and overwhelm and working through that dysregulation point, that point of observing, holding space for one another, is almost like that identification point in, again, the difference between the feminine energy feeling some kind of energetic dissatisfaction that is hard to put into words versus the feminine energy realizing and recognizing what can change around them. And that's why we see even now, for masculine energy, seeing the feminine in this way feels like it's energetically helping. because that is the difference of, again, feminine energy building towards some point of energetic resilience, right? The feminine energy continuing to do this work right now in the divine union frequency of experiencing what could be described as an energetic overwhelm, but also recognizing and identifying whether there's something here that feels like it's powered up to be able to move into that sense of energetic resiliency. This is, again, the masculine energy almost working with the feminine energy and saying, I want to hold space for you energetically. But I also want to be mindful, if you're always going through a moment that you're feeling that overwhelm or that dissatisfaction, there's something there that may be articulating what can't be energetically changed on the outside that needs to be navigated on the inside. So this is either masculine energy navigating this in the divine union with some feminine energy presently, or experiencing and recalling this energy from the past. Feminine energy in the divine union frequency. This is doing a lot of that unpacking of the self from within, identifying the difference between something that you always feel versus something that you presently feel. Masculine and feminine energy coming into the divine union frequency right now. This is the feminine energy going through the grieving process of letting go of the possibilities of where they may have aspired and desired divine union to be in the moment of receiving it. That's where nostalgia comes into play, because it's not the moment of saying that you want to go back to those experiences, but you're still holding grief there. There was still sentiment there. There was still energy there. There's still healing that needs to be done. This is almost that work of feeling where the true healing's beginning. Masculine. This is potentially recognizing and identifying that same feeling, but again, adopting that moment of recognizing and identifying spaces or places that may have required like hard lessons that are now allowing you to rise into the person that you are today. Both of these energies leaving that accommodation point for what occurred in the past that help fortify the connection in the present. Masculine and feminine energy in separation right now, this is what feels like it's so energetically heavy, because this is the feminine energy feeling like they're kind of caught in two worlds right now. You can see why the feminine energy in separation may be feeling so much energetic frustration right now, because this is the feminine energy saying, I had to let go of something because it was out of alignment. I see new energy coming towards me. It's not exactly there yet. And this is the feminine energy just feeling a lot of that emotional overwhelm and frustration, making sure, again, feminine, don't let that be that point of overwhelm in feeling like you're not finding what it is you're looking for, because it feels like you're getting energetically closer. Masculine energy, if in separation, if there's this moment or modality wherein you're assessing the past, you're having a breakthrough point that you're looking back at the past with different eyes, congratulations. Because that feeling of regret or that feeling of recognition of doing something different, well, congratulations, you're here in the present. This is where you can do so. It's a question of how you choose to move forward. So for a lot of the masculine energy, recognizing and identifying if that's path work that is either leading you back towards a feminine energy, to be able to come into a state of accountability, having understood something that you now understand, or if this is a lesson that you'll be carrying with you going forward, something you feel like you energetically like had to surrender in order to learn that lesson. Either way here, we see that ability of coming through, it's heavy, but that's the articulation point of what we like to identify as wisdom, a heavy energetic lesson to learn. Continuing to get clarification right now between our Queen of Cups in its reversal and our Three of Cups in its upright. Clarification coming through right now with our High Priestess. Same exact journey for the feminine. Same exact journey for the feminine. This is the feminine energy in separation. Utilizing that path work, identifying and recognizing. Look at this. Look at all, like just as we had all of that masculine energy right now around the feminine, and the feminine is having to utilize that power of energetic discernment, making sure that they see like what they feel about a masculine is self-evident in what they see in like presently in a masculine is what we're energetically seeing here. Feminine is all, and masculine is also going through that energetic process right now. The difference with the masculine energy is a moment that is happening that effectively is a point of identifying what direction the masculine wants to go in, because this is a masculine that feels like there's a lot of different directions of feminine around them where they may want to put this lesson. right? This is that moment of saying, I need to move with intentionality towards someone. And this is the energetic confusion, because this is the masculine going, I need to energetically choose a pathway. Is this a moment of coming into correction from the past? Is this a moment that I go forward with? Is this a moment that I'm not choosing divine union? This is the masculine saying that understanding doesn't articulate a direction. This is the masculine saying it opens the possibilities. And this is that moment of the masculine trying to determine what that pathwork looks like. Feminine energy, if in separation, this is that moment of energetically potentially seeing a masculine in this modality. This could be a feminine looking at a masculine being like, they've got a lot of choices to make. They got to pick a direction. But this is the important thing about the feminine. This is the feminine energy going, I don't want to put my hand on that scale. If I'm seeing a masculine that's trying to decide which direction to go in, this is the feminine energy saying, I'm not going to get into that space or place of being like, I want you to choose me. This is the feminine energy saying, I want the masculine energy to come towards me in a way that they're articulating and amplifying and saying, you're the energetic choice. Especially if there's something there that this masculine hasn't been healing because there's been some kind of race to the bottom to lower the standards to allow the masculine energy greater ease to have access to the feminine. This is the feminine energy that's almost looking towards the masculine being like, if they can't see that that's happening, it's a pity for them, but that's a feminine energy saying, like, it breaks my heart, but like, you know, I just feel like this is almost a feminine energy saying, I feel like I want to help the feminine energy around that masculine, because this is the feminine energy, almost seeing the feminine, moving in that way and being like, that's unhealed feminine energy now. That's almost the feminine energy seeing the masculine energy around a bunch of unhealed feminine energy and being like, what a mess. Like that's just, it's again, it's almost a feminine energy. Again, putting some point of energetic wisdom into play to a certain extent. Masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union right now. This is the feminine energy, you know, having that breakthrough. But that's the energy of, again, potentially a lot of the feminine coming towards the feminine at a point of coming into energetic union, of divine union, and saying to the feminine, what's your secret? What did you do to secure a masculine like that? And the feminine's like, I didn't do anything. The feminine's like, I raised my standards. Feminine's energy is like, that's almost a feminine energy saying, I utilized discernment. I said no to what wasn't for me to allow the energy that was ready for that yes to come in. And that was the feminine energy saying, I didn't do anything to get them. That's the feminine energy said, I took care of myself. I improved myself. I raised my energetic standards. I clearly stated what those standards were. I did not entertain anything or anyone that was showing me that they were still playing. Like, I moved away from the energy that was playing games, and I said, I'm not going in there. I'm going to be in a place where you know where to energetically find me, and you can come towards me in that way. That's the feminine energy saying, I was custodial with my own energy. That's how I found the alignment that was right for me. Masculine, again, this is the feminine energy around the masculine right now, potentially even now trying to like lure, like this is masculine, recognizing that when you're in divine union, there's always feminine energy around you, like, you know, trying to lure you out of it. But this is the masculine energy being like no contest, because again, this is masculine energy that's utilizing their powers and pathwork of finding partnership and being like, no, I've energetically found the energy that, like, you know, this isn't a limitation of my possibilities. This is an expansion point. This is that moment of the masculine feeling that sense of energetic positivity and possibility, and feeling like that is the energetic celebration point. But again, even now, that's that moment of masculine feeling and experiencing the sense of the energetic lessons that had to be learned to be able to move into divine union in this way. It's heavy. Masculine and feminine energy in the heart of the divine union right now. Look at these counterparts. Look at these counterpart energies. These are energies right now that are utilizing a lot of that energetic resilience right now, because the energy in the divine union, you know, isn't moving into that modality of letting themselves feel overcome by emotionality, letting themselves feel overwhelmed. It's not the fact that these energies aren't feeling some of that energetic overwhelm right now. It is building that sense of energetic fortitude and resilience, because that is that moment that, again, feels like that sense of working forward in a way that requires that ability, again, not to subject someone to how you're feeling, but instead being able to really focus on what feels like it is energetically best to maintain a frequency. So we see even now that a lot of that energy in the divine union frequency is maintaining and working through that. And it feels very difficult, because that's that moment that this energy, like, look at the energetic compassion here. It requires a lot of self-work to be able to do a lot of that, have that ability of doubting one's own self and pushing forward regardless, or feeling emotional overwhelm and moving it into energetic excitement to amplify and allow you to push forward in this way. So we see even now that a lot of this energy, like, it's energetically heavy, but you're utilizing it, you're channeling it into what feels like it is productive. Final cards for today's spread between our Five of Cups and our High Priestess energy. One card to clarify, please. Look at this. Eight of Wands in its reversal. I need to stress this right now. You guys have been hearing me say this over and over again right now. The last few days have not been the time to be able to make to rush ahead to make any sudden changes. It has been a moment of being able to truly identify and recognize blockages, right? I kind of gave a little bit of that warning, because I saw that energetic intensity popping up over the last few days, and it really did feel like it was kind of trying to spur you into some kind of immediate action. I stressed that the other day that the important thing to do is, if you were feeling something that you had to do at that moment, giving yourself the space of 5 minutes. Seeing if, especially if it felt out of character, seeing if it felt like that after a few hours, being able to energetically process the difference between feeling something that is like a burst and then recognizing the feeling of energetic conviction that is required to propel that forward even now. One of the things that may be happening for like some of the energy that's still working on some processes here is, if you spoke to, there might be some energy here that may have said, like, I spoke too soon. You know what I mean? Like, I told you, it's a little bit of that, like, pulling back on the energetic reins to a certain extent that's happening right now. But the gift of this is that moment of recognizing and identifying what feels like it is allowing for a point of productivity versus what feels like it's moving in the wrong direction, right? The ability, I have to stress here, the ability and the work of the energy in the divine union frequency doesn't just do what they energetically like all the time. That's not the frequency of divine union. It is utilizing a path of energetic discernment to feel like what feels like it is, what is correct, what feels like it is intentional, what feels like it is productive. It's not that you don't have those moments that you feel like you have that urge to do something unproductive. It's that you pull back on those moments. You hold up. You say, wait a minute, how am I feeling here? Because even now we see that that's that moment that feels like the difference in terms of identifying what is happening within versus what can be changed from without. And it requires that moment of internal assessment. Masculine and feminine energy doing this. For feminine, this is overcoming what feels like an energetic overwhelm and finding a way to apply that in a way that, again, you're not subjecting someone to your emotions, but you are allowing yourself to ask yourself what feels like it is emotionally, letting those emotions guide you in terms of identifying what feels like it is productive versus what is something that is potentially hindering you or potentially blocking your blessings or self-sabotaging, right? That's that moment of catching oneself and saying, like, oh, I always feel like this. Wait. And if I don't learn how to, like, navigate through that, I don't want to subject others to how I'm feeling. I want to be able to facilitate a point of healing and being able to observe what I'm feeling and then determine if there's something productive in being able to energetically express it. Masculine energy in divine union frequency right now, this is potentially why your partnership feels like it is so viable. This is something that you may be seeing that the feminine has been working on, just as you work through that sense of being able to overcome your fears. This is feminine having those moments of feeling an energetic overwhelm, but it's not the feminine energy like going into an overwhelm with it. It's almost like the feminine being like, there's a disturbance in the force. There's a disturbance in the force, because that's the feminine energy that's able to, again, channel what they're feeling in a way that feels like it's energetically productive to be able to communicate, okay? Masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union right now. One of the things that we're energetically seeing is for the energy coming into divine union frequency right now. This is why the energy coming into the divine union frequency is, again, this is masculine energy feeling a point of energetic nostalgia potentially for past situations or circumstances, but almost looking back and being like, I'm not going back. There's no going back here. It's like that sense of recognizing and identifying, building forth with the feminine. This is feminine. This is the same masculine energy coming into divine union saying, I've energetically found like I want to say the one, but that's not the masculine energy saying I found the one. This is the masculine energy saying I found the energy that works as hard as I work to conquer my fears. The work that I've been doing in trying to conquer my own fears and get to the heart of intimacy, they've been doing in facing their own emotions and learning to conquer their own emotions to be able to come into a point of energetic insight. These are both of those energies. This is when people say, how did you find this person? These are the energies saying, I looked in here. I became that person. I became the person I was trying to energetically attract. Masculine and feminine energy. And it's not that, and that's the difference, saying you can't get there, you can't go there, you can't do something. You have to go in here. You have to work in here. It starts in and then, and that's hard to put into words. Masculine and feminine energy in separation right now. This is the feminine energy feeling the energetic overwhelm and saying, I can't let that drive me forward. This is the feminine energy saying, if I'm feeling an energy, if I'm feeling a feeling towards a masculine, the feeling that I'm feeling, even if that energy misses me, if the energy misses me and it's not communicating with me and I can sense that they're missing me, that doesn't matter to a hill of beans. That's the moment of saying that dream could be an email, because that's the feminine energy saying, I need to see a masculine that works on overcoming their own fear as much as I work on controlling my own emotions in terms of feeling that energetic fear and acting upon it. That's the difference between what feels like a bunch of energetic spiritual mind games versus looking towards the energy that applies that type of energetic connection in a positive, viable, energetic way. That's that moment of looking feminine, being like, I might be a mind reader, but I don't want to be in a situation or circumstance that requires me to be, right? That's literally the feminine. And for the masculine, this is the masculine energy saying, I need to become my best version of self. I need to conquer my own fear, because if I've looked at situations and I'm mad that the feminine energy can't intuitively know what it is that I want with me being the strong silent type, this is the masculine energy saying that's actually not me looking for a special woman that has the ability to know me or read me like a book. That's me saying I'm too scared to just ask for something. I'm just too scared to ask for something. And the energy that can read you like a book can read the fact that you're too scared to ask for something, and they'll probably stay away from you with a 10-foot pole, because the energy wants to protect themselves from energy that requires that level or degree of constant like mental, spiritual alignment. It's exhausting. So this is, again, both energies having these energetic breakthrough moments in separation and being like, why, I need to conquer my fear. Masculine in separation, feminine going, I need to conquer my emotions. I need to conquer my emotions. Both of these energies working on the ability to stop so that they can move towards what they want to do. It starts with healing is not always just do what you want. It's stop what is hindering you. So this is the energy of both of those energies in the in separation, being like, if I want something to change, I need to stop what's not helping facilitate that change. And that starts with the self. Bottom of the deck on this reading right now is Three of Wands in its reversal. So this is what I mean to a certain extent, because this is that moment that feels very difficult for all of the energies. Masculine and feminine in separation right now. That moment or that opportunity, that desire to energetically reach out to a certain extent, it needs to start somewhere. The problem here is for the feminine energy in separation. Feminine's like, I'm not going to lead that communication effort. Even if I know energetically what's going on, feminine's like, I'm not going to be in a space or place that I feel like I need to lead the charge in terms of the masculine being able to face their own fears. The feminine wanting to, but almost stopping or resisting their own self in doing so. Masculine energy. If this is a moment that you're feeling that need to energetically connect towards the feminine, but being well, maybe if I wait, they'll reach out to me and then I don't have to tell them how I feel. I want you to experience that. I want you to embody that if that's what you're feeling. If you're saying, well, maybe if I just wait long enough, I won't have to tell them how I feel. Well, there's the problem, right? That's the identification point if that's something that's happening here. Because that's that moment of, again, masculine almost, wanting or desiring the feminine to reach out, but almost recognizing and identifying that that's not for the sense of feeling oh, that'll show me that the feminine cares. It's actually because that'll protect you from intimacy. It's almost saying to myself, well, if I don't have to reach out, I don't have to be the one that needs to be intimate. I'm not the one that needs to be vulnerable. So we see even now, it almost feels like an energetic impasse, because this is the feminine going, I hope they've learned the ability to become vulnerable enough to tell me how they feel. And masculine going, I hope they reach out to me so I don't have to energetically tell them how I feel. Masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union. This is that moment that you feel there's a lot of potential, as you're moving into divine union, a lot of energy is potentially shifting around you. And this is that moment that you're recognizing that even now there may be energy that you had connections with, that there was some kind of feeling of something that was potentially still open-ended. That's that closure point, and potentially now feeling that, almost that energetic shift in the feeling of disappointment, potentially an energy that thought that there was some kind of possibility of a path work between you both. But seeing you kind of moving into divine union is almost that moment of now feeling the express energy of that energetic disappointment in someone who may have felt they waited too long to be able to try to energetically heal something. That's why we even see now, it's if a lot of the energy is coming into divine union and someone's reaching out now, it's almost that energy looking back towards them and being too little too late, the opportunity, the window, it's gone. You know what I mean? If the energy comes back towards you at a time when they find you in the divine union, that's almost that moment that it requires that level or degree of assessment as to whether someone truly changed or whether someone's coming through to see if they can pull you out of it. Masculine and feminine energy in the heart of the divine union frequency right now, what we're energetically seeing and identifying is that moment that is articulating how much you've energetically changed. And we see even now, something about this feels like the difference in relationality to what you are communicating. Because that's important, because we see even now, that's the difference between going through a process of not wanting to energetically burden someone with something that you feel that cannot be changed, versus that energetic feeling of looking and saying, this is something that can be. Sometimes these become reversed. You know what I mean? This is what is happening right now, because we see to a certain extent for a lot of the energy in the heart of divine union frequency, the desire to say one thing instead of to say the thing that you truly aspire and desire to. It's always there energetically. These are energies that are always working through this. For feminine, that's that moment of working through the emotional part. That's that moment of trying to, again, make sure that you're not subjecting someone to an emotion that doesn't have an actionable point. For masculine, this is that moment of not trying to avoid a conversation for fear of being intimate. So both of these energies, even in divine union right now, are working through a lot of these communication blockers. It's the retrograde. Communication blockers are at an all-time high. And with the heaviness of this like eclipse hangover, it can lead to a lot of pathwork of potentially, saying something and potentially fearing that you're being misunderstood. Or not saying something and potentially fearing that you're being misunderstood. That is the Daily Collective Energy update for today. I want to thank you guys so much for being here to experience it. Just a reminder, if you would like to book a private reading with me, you can book one on my website, graystrega.com. My private readings are done over video, and if you are a subscriber to my TikTok, you can take 10% off any of my services when you pay. Just mention your subscriber name at the point of payment. Please keep in mind, if you book a private reading with me, it is a two-step process. You have to book the reading, you have to pay for the reading. Please make sure you do both if you'd like to have that reading. Most importantly, please remember that I will never, ever, 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 ever reach out to you for a private reading. The only way you can book a reading with me is if you do so on my website. So I encourage you to do it there. Also, we are having a giveaway. I am doing a contest right now to give away a free 15-minute reading. All you need to do to become a part of that contest is if you go to the link in my bio, you will find a link to a survey. It will take 2 minutes. It is a travel survey. We are trying to get your insight on where you might want to go if I do a destination trip somewhere to work on tarot. If you take that survey, you will automatically be entered into that giveaway. So I encourage you to do it there while it is still open. Also, we are beginning our classes. I am now offering classes. They will be monthly classes. Subscription to my Substack will grant you access to our live class, as well as recordings of all previous classes, as well as a private chat with me to be able to ask any questions that you may have in relationality to your own journey. We are doing an in-depth deep dive on the entire tarot. We are starting those classes on April 17th with the Fool card. That first class will be at 6 p.m. PST, 9 p.m. Eastern. I hope that you will join me there. I want to thank you guys so much for being here today and sharing with me in these messages, and we will do this again tomorrow.